But the second part, and I've said this pretty consistently, is the Eagles can offer him a starting job. So they can offer him the ability to play. And then if he plays well, he could get a big contract next year, whether it's here or somewhere else. So to me, this has always been the perfect fit for him. Even if he gets $4 million from somebody else, and he's not, Jody, at this stage, everybody's budget, nobody's paying Steven Nelson that to be a fourth corner or even a third corner. They're just not going to do it at this stage of the game. So
Johnny Mac, we are 28 days away from camp, and this would be show number what? Guess off the top of your head for Bird 6?
We're nearing 60. I don't think what are we, 57, 58, 59?
59, very good. Show 59 here on Birds 365, heading toward 100. Those first 100 days in Birds 365 office are key. Yes. We're getting there. We're zooming right along to get there. Even though it seems like camp is like a year and a half.
What did you want to accomplish, Jody, in the first 100 shows of the Birds 365 administration?
To not get fired was the number one goal as far as I was concerned. And we may still accomplish that. We
may. We'll day to day. What do I always tell you?
There you go.
Control what you can control, Jody.
You're not going to get coach speak like that anywhere else than here on Birds 365, that we are day to day. John McMullen, Jody McDonald, hanging with you. We got a couple of good guests who will hop aboard during the next 2 hours. We'll give you details on that coming up in just a second. I want to reference a friend of the show. We've had him on before. We'll probably try and get him on next week or the week after, certainly sometime over the next couple of weeks. Adam Kaplan of the Inside the Birds podcast did mention in his latest podcast that he's gotten at least what he believes to be decent info and sources about the Eagles and the conversations they're having with Steven Nelson, the much talked about cornerback, last with the Pittsburgh Steelers, who is still out there on the open market, who is arguably the best cornerback who is still available on the free agent market right now. And we've heard little about the Eagles' interest in Steven Nelson, other than guys like Jody McDonald, John McMullen, just speculating on Birds 365 that it seems like a natural fit and the Eagles should be in conversations with him. Adam Kaplan did throw out some parameters of what he believes the conversations have been like. And what Adam said was he's hearing that the Birds are trying to get the deal done somewhere in the $2 to $3 million range. 1 year contract at this stage of free agency. That's usually what you're talking about. Guys aren't getting multi-year deals when you're already sneaking up on July and you are down to less than a month before camp opens up. Chances are Nelson's going to have to take a 1 year deal. That's the best offer he's going to get. And that the Eagles are sitting somewhere in that $2 to $3 million range, whereas Nelson is still of the belief that he deserves more and is asking for somewhere between $4 and $5 million. At first blush, it doesn't seem like that big a difference, John. But when teams are getting down to the nitty and the gritty, the Eagles have about $4 million underneath their cap right now as far as space goes, which, by the way, an aside, I don't think I brought this up in a week.
Yeah, did I miss
the Landon Dickerson signing?
Nope, you haven't.
Have they announced that yet? Is that a foregone?
It is a foregone conclusion, but no, they have not announced it, and they have not announced it because of what I've been telling you. It's offset money, and it'll get done before training camp. But you're right. The bigger part of Landon Dickerson is the cap hit. So you mentioned, let's see, I'm pulling it up. The Eagles have right now $4.72 million essentially of salary cap space. Landon's hit is going to be over $1 million of that. So you have to understand right off the bat, that's going to take a chunk out. And then you're talking about Steven Nelson. Now, Howie's trick is these voidable years where Steven Nelson will sign a 5-year deal on paper, right, which is 4 voidable years on top of a nothing year. So you can spread out the the signing bonus, whatever guaranteed money gets over 5 years, and it won't be much of a hit. So they'll be able to do it if they can convince Steven Nelson to come in. Couple things about Steven Nelson. One, because the Eagles are so up against it, we've been talking about Steven Nelson for so long. There's almost this anticipation. Oh, let's get Steven Nelson. So if he comes in, this is not a big time player. This is the best of what's left. And oh, by the way, what's today's date, Jody? June 29th.
Be the 29th, yes.
He's still out there for a reason. If he was really good, he wouldn't be out there. And certainly if he was really good, we wouldn't be talking about 2 million and 4 million in Parson numbers. So you have this weird kind of loggerheads where Steven Nelson's agent claims 17 teams are interested. Well, yeah, come on.
Oh, do you not believe him? Oh, I believe him. There are 17 teams interested, but they're interested in the same kind of numbers that the Eagles are, about 2 million per, and the agent's holding out for 4 or 5. That's why he's still not signed.
Yeah, so it's sort of how you frame it. Yeah, a bunch of people would let him come in and say, okay, this is a veteran guy. He can probably help us. You need 5 corners in the NFL in today's day. So you're right. I mean, there's probably a lot of teams that would bring him in. But the second part, and I've said this pretty consistently, is the Eagles can offer him a starting job. So they can offer him the ability to play. And then if he plays well, he could get a big contract next year, whether it's here or somewhere else. So to me, this has always been the perfect fit for him. Even if he gets 4 million from somebody else, and he's not, Jody, at this stage, everybody's budget, nobody's paying Steven Nelson that to be a 4th corner or even a 3rd corner. They're just not going to do it at this stage of the game. So, yeah, from Steven Nelson's standpoint, you got to say, all right, you know what? The opportunity here is bigger than maybe a couple extra bucks there. That's how I would look at it. Other players look at it, oh, you're going to offer me 15 cents more? I'm going to go there. It always depends on the individual.
And it depends on the guy who's making the deal. Part of what every general manager has to do is negotiate and try and hold the line. And in a capped world heading into a season, give yourself as much wiggle room. You just threw the number out. It's like 4 and change, but you got to factor in $1 million plus for Dickerson, which is going to take it down to 3 and change. Oh, Howie doesn't want to give it away in one fell swoop. You want to save it as best you can because you never know what's going to happen. You could have a tremendous run of injuries leading into the season, and before you know it, you're elevating guys who you're targeting for your practice squad going into camp. You don't really think they've got a chance to make your team, but they could be practice squad players. Damn, they're going to be on our active 53 because we've got 2 cornerbacks who went down, 2 offensive linemen who went down, 2 linebackers who went down with injury. So you always want to leave yourself a little wiggle room, and that's what I think Howie is doing right now, trying to negotiate as best he can to leave himself that wiggle room. But part of it is a salesmanship job that you have to sell. You did a good job just then explaining why it would be advantageous for Nelson to be here. He's going to start. How many teams in the National Football League could we look at their roster right now, look at their depth chart, and say, oh, well, if they get Steven Nelson, and he's certainly stepping in and starting over the guys that they have right now, what do you got? A handful? Maybe 7 or 8 at the most? So if playing is the most important thing, you sell that. If coaching is the most important thing, I guess you get Nick Sirianni on the phone if he needs to step in and say, listen, I'll tank rock, paper, and scissors for you. If that's what you need a little confidence boost. You should see me. I can lose to anybody on the team when it comes to competitive games that we play.
Yes.
You do what you have to get the guy interested. And I'm not sure that the Eagles have done that. Like I said, Adam Kaplan put out numbers there. And believe me, when I tell you, you know this plenty well, John, that it's about 80% of the battle is what are the dollars and cents. And then it's the periphery items and the other things that you can sell. The money's got to be damn close to acceptable for the player before they're ever going to do anything.
Yeah. And, you bring up the fact that Steven's talking about money versus playing time and coaching. You bring up Nick Sirianni, Jody. I think it's more about Jonathan Gannon. And by the way, that's also a positive because Jonathan Gannon's history is with the cornerback position. That's where he grew up. So you have a defensive coordinator who not only grew up as a coach in this league teaching cornerbacks. Oh, by the way, he also rescued the career of Xavier Rhodes. You can throw that out at him.
Yeah.
Who was once an all-pro corner and just went in the tank and all of a sudden, not great, but he was okay in Indianapolis last year. And he's done it numerous times, and you could point to that. So as far as a sell job, this is pretty easy for the Eagles, in my opinion. By far, though, the biggest is we can offer playing time. And if you go anywhere else, you might win playing time. You might compete, as Nick Sirianni likes to say, and you might win a job somewhere and everything might be copacetic, but you're going to have to go win that job. He comes into Philadelphia, and we talk about it, and this is the hypocrisy of competition. He's a starting outside corner. Now, they might not name him, sort of like Jalen Hurts hasn't been named the starting cornerback. They might say, oh, we want to look at Mike Jaquette, and we want to look at Avonte Maddox outside, and even Josiah Scott outside. No, he's your starting corner. And you can say that behind the scenes and say, Steven, look at this path, man. There's no grass, there's no weeds, there's no nothing. This is straight, man. All you got to do is reach the finish line. You're the starting corner for the Philadelphia Eagles. And as I said, who knows? If Jonathan Gannon does his handiwork, if he turns him into an overachieving cornerback, this is a corner. But we talk about this being a quarterback desperate league, Jody. Well, it's also a cornerback desperate league. And if he plays well over 17 games, got to catch myself, not 16, he can make himself some money next year.
And we'll see if that happens this week or next week or the week after as we get closer to camp. We've been waiting for it to be the week that the Eagles upgrade the cornerback position. Hasn't happened yet. But then again, Stephen Nelson hasn't signed anywhere else yet. So we're not coming down that harshly on Howie Roseman. Something you and I discussed for just a couple of minutes we had before the show started. Carson Wentz, the mentoring man. I never knew. Who knew that Carson Wentz was the mentoring guy? Now, I will cut Carson this much slack because he comes into the league and he's thrown into the deep end of the pool. Didn't look like that was going to be the case. He was going to be one of the rookies that was going to have to sit and watch and learn and play when the Eagles decided it was time to move on from their veteran quarterback. No, lo and behold, the week before camp gets underway, they trade Sling and Sammy to the Minnesota Vikings, and Carson Wentz is thrown right into the starting lineup. So he never really got that mentoring thing. But also, he's never been asked to do that mentoring thing either, probably until this year, which now most people who cover the media speculate it wasn't something that Carson Wentz liked or enjoyed. He wasn't happy about the fact that the Eagles used a second-round pick on Carson Wentz this year. So he never really got it, and he never really did it. But somehow now we're made to believe that Carson Wentz is Mr. Mentor. He decided to specifically give some advice to Trey Lance on his upcoming season. These North Dakota guys. I guess Carson has moved his charity softball game from down at Lincoln Financial Field out to North Dakota. I'm guessing he's not getting as big a crowd in Fargo as he did here in Philadelphia.
No, I think, real quick, Jody, he's always had two. So he had one in Philadelphia, he had one in North Dakota. I still think he has two. So I think he's doing one in Indy, and he's
in
doing
Indy.
One he's doing one in North. He's always had two softball. He's always done one in North Dakota, and he always did one at Lincoln Financial Field. So he always did two.
Okay.
And then you have all the old North Dakota State guys going back for that game. So Easton Stick is out there as well. And, I think it is more of a North Dakota State thing. You mentioned he didn't have mentoring. Now, he did. It was Chase Daniel. Sam Bradford, it's always interesting with these situations, was not happy when the Eagles drafted Carson Wentz. If you remember, he didn't show up for voluntary work for about a week or or 10 days, and that's rare for a starting quarterback. I mean, voluntary work, we've talked about this all the time. It's voluntary for certain people. It's not voluntary for young players. It's not voluntary for the starting quarterback. You got to be there. So it was kind of a big deal at the time. People realized that Sam Bradford wasn't happy, and understandably so. He knew the writing on the wall. I mean, number 2 overall pick, you're done. It's just a matter of when. And ultimately, it got sped up after the Bridgewater injury. What goes around comes around. You see it in Green Bay. I mean, Brett Favre was upset with Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers upset with Jordan Love. You have all this drama, whatever you want to call it. So Carson's not that rare. And the fact that he didn't like the Eagles drafting Jalen Hurts, I don't have a problem with that. I really don't. I have a problem with the way you handled it after. You can be upset. You can even go to Howie Roseman's office and say, "Take down my fat head, Howie. You drafted, put up a Jalen Hurts. Go be angry. Go scream. Go yell some paint off some walls, but then go out and do what Aaron Rodgers did." Now, you're not Aaron Rodgers, not going to be the MVP, whatever. Okay, but my point, you get my point. You can handle it a little better from that kind of standpoint. As far as mentoring, that it's like anything to a lesser degree. The Alabama guys stick together, the Miami guys stick together, the North Dakota State guys, and all of a sudden they have this quarterback tree almost, and they're going to stick together. But I do think it's funny that he said, kind of dim the outside noise, whatever the quote was. I mean, come on, Carson, you did not do that.
Right. Black out the noise. Go to work and black out the noise was the supposed quote that used in talking to Trey Lance. Hello. How about looking in the mirror here, big guy? He did not handle it well this year. Yeah, you actually cut him more slack than I do for the fact that he's got a right to be annoyed because he goes, it's a 2nd-round pick. It's not a 1st-round pick. It's a mid to late.
Yeah, but still, Jody, I will still say it's hard to find a historical comparison of somebody taking a quarterback that high. I get you. It's not a 1st-round pick. At that age, and you just paid Carson Wentz. I can't find another example of it in the Super Bowl era, and I've looked. I can't find it. 27-year-old quarterback who you just paid the Brinks truck to, you just backed it up, and all of a sudden you take another quarterback in the 2nd round that high. 38-year-old quarterback. Yeah, it's happened. There's plenty of examples of it. Guy in the prime of his career that you just paid all that money. There's no examples of it, Jody. So it is rare.
And rare, but deal with it. Come on. I don't know about you, Johnny Mac, but me, if somebody is going to pay me exorbitant fees to do a job, and yes, I will use the word exorbitant to describe Carson Wentz's contract. I get it. Every time there's a new guy every year that steps in, and he's going to be the new highest paid guy, and you're going to reset the whole salary structure in the league by the top level quarterbacks and the like. But he was certainly of that ilk, and he got that kind of money. I'm not going to sweat a 2nd-round draft pick being picked behind me.
And look, I agree with you. That's what I'm criticizing for. At some point, get angry. Like they didn't communicate with you before the pick. Get angry. And then move on and turn the corner and say what you just said. It's a stinking 2nd-round pick. They just gave me the most guaranteed money in the history of the NFL. I agree with you. And I agree he handled it wrong. But I also, where we disagree and where we go off different paths, I think the Eagles made a mistake. Yeah. If the goal, remember, Jody, remember what the goal was. Remember, the goal was Carson Wentz is going to be here. So with revisionist history, you can say, oh, this worked out well because Carson went in the tank. But why did Carson go in the tank? And Carson going in the tank was not the plan. That's my point. So that's where I criticize the Eagles.
Right. And I know I'm on an island pretty much by myself here. Maybe this is one thing we'll run by our first guest. I was perfectly fine using the pick for a backup quarterback in the 2nd round. because the Eagles didn't really have a backup quarterback going into last offseason. I know it's not the usual way that the NFL works, but yeah, every once in a while, Harry Roseman believes that the Eagles can do things a little differently, and maybe he'll be a trendsetter. That we've got a young starting quarterback, and Carson Wentz, relatively young. We can have an even younger backup. Age is irrelevant. We just know we need 2 quarterbacks, and if I can get a young quarterback, because if there's one thing that I marvel at the NFL almost on a year-in, year-out basis, is the fact that they pay damn good money to backup quarterbacks, and you then hope that the guy never sees the field. Please sit all season long. I'll pay you. Oh, I'll pay you, overpay you. I'm going to have 22 guys, at least 6 starters that I'm going to pay less than you to never play, stand on the sidelines, wear a hat, and carry a clipboard. But the backup quarterback's an important position. Why not get him cheaper? And a guy on a rookie deal who's a second-round draft pick is cheaper. And damn if they didn't have to put Jalen Hurts in. Now, yes, none of us foresaw the collapse of Carson Wentz's career, but he did actually get in and play. I bought Harry Rose. That's what I said the night that they made the pick. Shock is certainly your first reaction. They're taking a quarterback in the second round? But when you took a couple of minutes to think about it, like, all right, well, as a backup, he could actually be cost effective and he might be good. And what happens if Carson Wentz breaks his leg and he's out for 2 years? Now you've got your next guy in place.
Some inside baseball, Jody. On draft night, on that night, I was given an indication that the Eagles were going to draft Jalen Hurts, and I hesitated to put it on Twitter because I was like, "This can't be right."
How long before the pick?
I had the pick up there before they made the pick. I just threw it up there. I said, "Whatever." But and it was right, so it worked out.
We're talking matters of minutes here.
Yeah, we're talking like a minute, 90 seconds before the pick. And I said to myself, this can't be right. This can't be right. And it was right.
Well, and I didn't come down.
I hesitated. So it should have been up. My point is it should have been up about 2.5 minutes before.
Well, that's okay. And I was one of very few who didn't have a problem with Howie Roseman actually making that pick. All right. Let's get our first guests up. Joining us today is going to be Chris Franklin from NJ.com, Eagles beat writer. We're up aboard with the Mac and Mac guys there on Birds 365.
If you missed any of today's show on the JAKIB Media channel, listen to the podcast on your way home. Available on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.